be sharing with you in this video how to make creating what you want happen in a much easier way. Because the truth is that you can make what you want happen in a much easier way if you allow it to be the case. Because a lot of times we hold on to all these beliefs about how things have to be difficult. And I'm not saying that there's not a time and place to put in a little bit more work and to put in what people say is hard work. I'm not saying there's not a time and place for that or to put in that type of energy in life. But what I'm saying is that on the flip side, there's another kind of energy where if we balance the other side as well, we can at least be open to the opportunity that it can be easier sometimes, or at least maybe possibly more of the times than not, if that's even possible, right? I'm gonna try to open you up to the possibility that this can actually be the case in this video, so that you can make creating what you want actually be much easier. And so the first thing that I want to share with you in this video in terms of how to actually do this is the number one. This might sound simple, but I find that this is one of the most important things that I personally didn't realize for the longest time, is just simply know what you want. See, what do you actually want? What is it that you actually care about in your life? What do you really want? A lot of times we walk through life and we have these kind of like half-committed goals. It's like you kind of want something, but you haven't really made it concrete and clear. I want to share with you in this video that I invite and encourage you to make what you want extremely clear. Know what you want. Know the intention in your life. Why would anybody walk through life with a half-committed intention? I really want you to sit with this. I really want you to contemplate this. If you don't know what you want, isn't that the type of experience that you're creating? Right? Because every single moment you are creating a certain kind of experience. And if you don't know what you want, even if it's an unconscious choice, it's still nonetheless a choice to create this type of experience. And so what I want to once again open you up to the possibility of is it possible that if you know what you want, that's 90% of making what you want happen in a much easier way. What do you actually want? Because we have these far-fetched dreams, and I'm not saying that anything is far-fetched. I'm not saying that anything is impossible. I'm not going to stand here and be the one to limit you in your life and to limit you and to say that you can't create something. I'm not going to be the one to do that. What I'm saying is that you can absolutely create anything, but a lot of times we set goals that are not realistic to what we believe is possible relative to where we're at in that present moment. And so I think that one of the most important things to do is to start to walk through life with, yes, have confidence towards your goal. Yes, be committed to your goal. Yes, be 100% committed. But at the same time, just remember that you don't want to set a goal so high that it makes you stop taking action completely. This is very powerful because a lot of times we kind of sit and we daydream while we're scrolling on TikTok, not doing anything that's in alignment with our goal. And I'm not saying that taking a rest day and scrolling on TikTok can't not be in alignment with your goal. It's very possible that it could be. But if you abuse that task too much, or not necessarily task, if you abuse that action of, just scrolling on TikTok and not really doing anything, that's not going to lead to the success that you're looking for. And so if you know what you want, it's going to become much more clear where you're doing all these things in your day that are not aligned with who you want to be. It's going to become much more clear that you're creating these types of experiences. You start to take more responsibility for how you're showing up in your life and the way that you're being in your own world, because you can't really blame anybody else for the way that you're acting. If you want to take responsibility in your life, your actions are up to you. But when you know what you want, once again, it becomes easier to control your actions. It becomes easier to focus on who it is that you want to be. It becomes much easier because now you're not scattered in many different directions. You know what you want, and then the actions that you take will be concisely to help that come into creation, to come into fruition. And so the second thing that I want to share with you in this video is just to ask you a question. And that question is, what are the consequences of not getting it? If you don't get that thing in your life, if you don't create the thing that you're looking for, what are the consequences of that? And I want you to really sit with this, because oftentimes we're very scared to look at the consequences of not getting what we want. Because we're scared. It's like, well, what if that dream doesn't happen? Look at that. Because that's the trajectory that you're headed in. Unless you make a change, you not getting what you want is exactly the direction that you're headed in. And what does that look like? I want you to really sit with that, because that's going to be your life unless you change the behaviors in your day-to-day life. Unless you change your behaviors, that's going to be the consequence of not getting what you want, is you're going to stay the same. And how does that make you feel? What does that look like? Are you okay with that future? Because once again, I wouldn't be scared to look at that if that's the actual future that you're headed towards, unless you make a behavior level change. A behavioral level change, right? That's going to be very powerful. And if you really want to create something powerful in your life and create something that you're going to be proud of, that you're going to be happy that you created that you fully committed to that you fully committed to your goal, and that you fully committed to what it is that you want to create, that's going to be something that can only happen if you're continually contemplating what's going to happen if you don't create this. Are you okay with that destiny? Are you okay to go back into the old world, into the old habits that you used to be? Because you're creating this momentum in this new direction. You're creating all this powerful energy in this new direction. And if you were just to stop doing that today and just go back to the old version of yourself, are you okay with that? Or are you okay with not maintaining what you've created for yourself the last few months, the last year? Is that something you're really okay with? Because if you're not okay with letting that go, well then remember, what are the consequences of not being the person that you've been? Or if you haven't created it yet, what are the consequences of not stepping into that version of yourself and being that way today as if you already had it? You know, what are the consequences of not doing that? What does that look like? That's something that we should sit with, because that's the energy that you're gonna need to fuel yourself, because that pain has to become stronger than the pain of taking action. If the pain of not taking action becomes stronger than the pain of taking action, well, guess what? You're gonna take action. You're gonna be that person. It's gonna be natural. It's gonna going back to the title of this video, it's gonna feel natural to you to be that person. It's not going to feel tough. It's not going to feel like you're putting in lots of work, because why? Not taking action is going to feel like more work to you, because you've programmed yourself to believe that not taking action is going to feel worse than taking action. And that's not really a programming. It's just a realization that is the truth of what it is for you in your experience. The truth is that if you don't create it, you're going to feel lots of pain, and you convince yourself, well, you know what? Taking action, that's going to be, painful, but not taking action, that pain is going to be worse. And then so what do? You take action towards your goal, because that's the choiceless choice. It becomes like, I don't really have a choice other than to do this, because it's like, if I don't do this, I'm going to be in more pain than if I just do it. I'd rather just do this, right? And then you feel better. And so the third thing that I want to share with you in this video is what I really believe is important to make anything easy, quote unquote, easy in your life, is to remember that I really strongly believe that everything in life is going to be a balance of the masculine and the feminine. So what does that mean? It means that sometimes you're going to have to take action when you don't feel like it. You know, you're going to wake up in the morning and you're not going to want to go to work or work on your business or continue on with the goal that you committed to yourself the day prior. You're going to feel like that's going to want to happen sometimes. Well, then what do? You take action anyway, because your feelings don't matter. What matters is that you committed to that version of yourself and being that version of yourself no matter what. And you committed to that idea. That's the key to the masculine energy, is just committing no matter what you feel, because you know what? You're going to generate a higher state that's going to make you feel better if you take action. In the state of action, you can feel better, whereas if you just lay around and don't take action, you're not going to feel good, because you're not taking action and you know that you want to take action. And then so that's the masculine. But the feminine is saying that sometimes you need to take a day off and you can't overwork yourself. And that's just as important as the masculine. So I think that the masculine and the feminine are both just as important. Sometimes you're going to have to radically self-accept that you can not take any more action than you've taken, and you have to stop taking action completely stop taking action. Take a rest day, because you know, especially if you're doing physical workouts, if you work out enough, you literally have to go to sleep. you have, because most of the repairs and most of the healing happens in your sleep, not when you're actually at the gym. Because when you're at the gym, the muscles just break down and tear. The muscle fibers are going to start to tear. But when you're sleeping at home in the middle of the night, that's when the muscles actually get stronger and grow. And of course, if you had to eat enough the day prior to fuel that, but it's when the sleeping happens as well, right? It's all during the rest. So the feminine is saying that you need to rest, and that sometimes if you've exhausted taking action, the next action to take for you is to stop taking action and to radically self-accept the present moment and just accept it as it is and take a rest day. Then from that space of radical self-acceptance, when you're ready, you take massive action once again. And that's really what I think the masculine and the feminine balance is. It's just radically self-accepting that you can't change anything about your life and that just everything's perfect just the way that it is. And then from that space of honoring the present moment as it is completely, you take massive action towards your goal every single day. I think that's a beautiful combination, because on the one end, you radically just accept everything as it is. On the other end, you say that you are the creator of your world and that you have the power to be who it is that you want to be. Your thoughts that you're thinking, you have power to change those thoughts every single day. The actions that you take, you have power to change those actions. The identity that you prefer to be in your life, the intentions that you set, you have the power to change those. All of these things, you have the power to change. But if you get too caught up in that and you don't accept your present moment enough as it is, you're not going to be able to powerfully use these, concepts or take any action at all. So it's about radical self-acceptance, accepting the present moment as it is, and then simultaneously taking massive action towards your goal. And I think that these are the concepts that are going to help making what you want happen in a much easier way. Because if you know what you want, and if you understand that there's a path of not, if you don't get what you want, what is the consequence of being aligned with that path? If you understand that that's a truth in your world, that there's a consequence to not getting what you want, and you're not okay with that, and then you combine that as well with seeing that there's a masculine and there's a feminine energy in life as you go through your life, and you accept the present moment and you take massive action, I think if you combine these concepts, you're going to be able to make creating what you want happen in a much easier way. It's not guaranteed that what you want is going to be created, but I think that if you set yourself up for success, you can create the highest probability chance that you're able to create what you want in a much easier way. Whereas it feels like you can still work hard if you have to, but then other times you allow in that space of just allowing it to be easy because you literally have no choice anyway. So you may as well just surrender to the present moment as it is. And then when you're ready to take massive action, once again, in